Hey there everybody, and welcome to RPG Horror Stories with DnD Doge. In today's video, we have a story about a dungeon master that turns the game into a way to play out his fetish with a foxgirl DMPC. A story about how role-played flirting destroyed a long-time friendship, and much more. But first, considering the cringe that we're about to dive into, here are some kitties to give us some temporary wholesome points to help us survive them. Ah, there we go. Now I think we are ready to get into these stories. Cringy Dungeon Master runs terrible, problematic campaign and turns out to be a predatory creep in real life. By Reddit user, Gagtooth. This happened a few years ago when I tried going to a public D&D game in my city. The Dungeon Master worked for a comic store and was one of several guys running public campaigns for walk-in players. I was looking for a group and thought I'd start here and see where it goes. I didn't get a bad read from him at first, but I did notice that every day he had a lot of stories that sounded like lies. They were always about somebody verbally harassing him in public, followed by people rising up to his defense, and sometimes applauding him for being brave. It happened a lot, and I was sure that they couldn't be true, but I ignored it. He also talked a lot about his freelance photography business. The first few games felt like normal, formulaic sessions for public Dungeons & Dragons. Though after COVID hit and the shop shut down, he asked us if we could move the game to Discord and keep playing. So we did, and after that, the campaign started going in a really weird direction. He introduced his own DMPC, a part dragon, foxgirl princess who dresses like a maid. The DMPC whisked us away to her airship, the entire staff of which were also foxgirls dressed in maid outfits, quote-unquote, by choice. At first, I thought this was part of the plot, like some creepo villain of the week was collecting and brainwashing foxgirls for his fantasy harem or something. Though the DM was completely sincere about this choice, and the only creepy fantasy being fulfilled was his. The DMPC quickly took over the campaign, and of course, we get railroaded into helping her with her personal backstory-heavy quest. At some point, I wrote out my backstory and gave it to the Dungeon Master, though he never read it, and soon after, assigned me a new one. Later, we were sent on a mission to discover why a bunch of young women had recently gone missing from a nearby village. The trail led us to some dragon cult, who were obsessed with repopulating their race. I immediately assumed the worst, and sure enough, the missing women were being trapped in a rape dungeon. The rest of the party reacted like this was just another shocking twist, but this crossed the line for me. I stayed quiet for most of the combat, and just tried to end it as quickly as I could. After the session was over, I told him on the call that I'm not comfortable with those kinds of themes, and that I thought it was a really tactless choice on his part. He apologized and broke down into a pity party, calling himself scum and irredeemable. Whatever he could say to return the attention to himself and get the other party members to console him. I was exhausted by the whole thing, so I just let myself out of the call. I attended maybe one more session, wasn't feeling it, and I told the DM that I was leaving the campaign. He went into pity mode again, asking what he did to make me hate him. I just told him that I was busy and that I could not play anymore. Some months later, the comic shop I originally met the group at made a post saying that DM was banned from their store and that they apologized for his conduct. Apparently, his quote-unquote freelance photography business mostly involved pressuring cosplaying women at Comic-Cons to make suggestive poses involving his fetishes, particularly bare feet. He was then selling these photos online without the consent of the models, some of which were under the age of 18. After the models spoke out against him, all of his social media went dark, his photography business closed down, and I haven't heard from him since. The other players from his game asked me if I wanted to get together and keep playing Dungeons & Dragons without him. but I honestly just wanted to leave the whole experience behind me, so I declined. It sounds like this dungeon master was a pathological liar, considering all the stories he would tell, and I'm sure that all of us have experienced someone like this in our lives at some point or another. That alone isn't the worst thing, as it's usually just annoying in most cases. But then, there was his DMPC fox Girl Maid, with a ship and crew full of all fox girls. At that point, it seemed like the DM was just using the game to fulfill his own fetish, and stringing the other players along with it. Then there was the thing with the quest to rescue the kidnapped village women from the dragon cult that made OP uncomfortable. Having themes like that in Dungeons & Dragons is fine, as long as everyone agrees to it. Now, normally, I would say that this is why they should have had a session 0 to discuss this. But as it sounds like OP joined a game that was already in progress, it's possible that there was a session 0, especially with the way that the other players treated the quest as just your standard fare. Now, if that was the case, then the Dungeon Master should have laid out what OP could expect in the game beforehand, and asked for any limits that OP might have. Though all of that pales in comparison when the DM side hustle was revealed. To which, yikes. I'd say that the store was in the right for letting the DM go, and banning him after that revelation. It is a shame that all of this seemed to turn OP off from playing D&D though, but hopefully, they will get back into the hobby at some point. Let's move on. I'm scared of one of my players. By Reddit user Quasar697. I'm playing a D&D homebrew adventure set in a steampunk zombie world. We are all males, 20 to 21 years old, and the campaign started 6 months ago. At first, it was very funny to play. But then, I started noticing how one of the other players was a little strange and sadistic. And after more sessions, he seemed to be a literal psychopath. He was a Warforged bard. In one session, we defeated a Drider boss, and the bard said that he wanted to F it. The Dungeon Master said that it wasn't possible, so the player decapitated the Drider head and said that he will take it with him forever, so his character will have sex with it every time he wants. So, for some sessions, we had this Drider head with us, until one day the bard's player wasn't there at the session, so the other players took the head to use it as a ball and play soccer with it. I suggested that we should find a place to bury it, but the other players said that I should find some pussy first. Some months later, the bard died, as he charged 2 barbarians, even though he was alone. So the player made a female tabaxi character. Things became even more problematic, because he started writing in the group chat, "My character be like," and then sending uncensored furry porn, with everyone laughing. I told him to stop, because I wasn't comfortable with it, but the other players started mocking me, and sent me pics of black men naked kissing. I don't know what to do anymore. Should I leave the campaign? I tried to kill the bard by pushing it down a mountain, but he only broke an arm, and because it was a Warforged, our artificer created for him a gun arm, which the bard used to shoot an effing child during an infiltration mission. I argued that it was a terrible and wrong thing to do, but then our half-orc barbarian said that he had the same age as the child, because half-orcs age way faster than humans, so it wasn't a big problem for him. Holy God! I'd say that probably all of the players should have scared you, as all of them sound like absolute edgelords. But if you aren't having fun playing in this game with them, then just leave, and find a group that doesn't consider that type of stuff entertainment. I mean, no D&D is better than whatever the living fuck this was. I wish you luck, OP, and Godspeed in finding a better group. Let's get on to the next one. Player ruins 9-year friendship with DM over love confession. By Reddit user Hidden Gems. My girlfriend has recently started DMing a homebrew Pathfinder 2nd edition campaign for our usual D&D group, which consists of 5 people, plus herself. However, she decided to invite a friend of hers, whom she's known for 9 years, to the table. I've met this person a couple of times. He seemed super nice and chill, and we were all excited to add someone else to our party. The first session rolls around, and this friend, who is playing a mage, helps an NPC in distress. The NPC thanks him, and then the two engage in a bit of half-hearted flirting. It's heavily implied that this NPC is not a good person, a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of deal, and we all move on from the moment. I think, however, that this player could not move on from it because after our second session, my girlfriend received a slew of strange and vague texts from the mage asking to meet her for coffee the next day. My girlfriend couldn't meet her friend until a few days later, and when she finally did, she was absolutely floored. This man has gotten her a bouquet of flowers and chocolates. His opening line to her when they met was something vaguely sexual that really put my girlfriend off. And of course, there was a love confession. Apparently, he had been harboring this crush since they met 9 years ago. She told him that she couldn't, that she was already in a relationship with me and incredibly happy. As an olive branch and distressed that she just wanted to be friends, she still got coffee with him. Apparently, he kept asking her if she was truly happy and lamented about how it wasn't the right time to tell her. She expressed again that she was committed to me and happy with me, that she still wanted to be friends, and she also hoped that this didn't affect D&D either. Though he ended up leaving our game server after they parted ways, and hasn't spoken to any of us since. Both she and I were absolutely baffled by this whole ordeal. Our relationship was not a secret by any means. She talked about me to this person a lot, and expressed how happy she was, and even introduced me as her girlfriend the first time I met up with them. In the game, there's an NPC that flirts with my character, and it's implied that they have a thing going on behind closed doors. Neither of us are sure in what world this man thought that my girlfriend was going to automatically leave me for him. I do think, however, he viewed being part of this game, plus that small interaction with that NPC, as an invitation of sorts. But he will not be invited back to our table, and my girlfriend will be giving his character an unceremonious exit from our game. Man, talk about timing. It's one thing to have a crush on a friend that you've known for a long time, and I'm sure many of us has had that experience. But it's another thing entirely to confess that to said crush when they are obviously in a happy relationship. Plus, 9 years? That is plenty of time to find the right time to admit such a thing. Like, seriously, shit or get off the pot. I think that this player probably suffered from a bit of character bleed when OP roleplayed flirting with his character, and that is probably what jump-started this idea of his. It does suck that he hasn't been in contact since, because it does sound like he was a really good friend of OP's, but hopefully they can eventually reconcile and just put all of that awkwardness behind them. Let's move on. I don't think I'll be joining this game. By Reddit user, Commercial Warning 271. I'm a forever GM who is always on the hunt for a table that I can play at as a player. Earlier today, I was pretty excited to hear the brother of someone I know was looking for players to start up a new campaign, so I asked what the game would entail. I was told that he didn't want to spoil the plot of his game, or even say which game system we would be playing until Session 0, and that he couldn't give details on what the game would even be about, because he didn't want his intellectual property being leaked to the public. The information I was given, however, was that the game would be bi-weekly, and would cost each of the 6 players $25 a session to play, because tabletop RPGs are an expensive hobby. All I said was that I wasn't really interested, and that this guy was about to be rich, making $300 a week GMing. Edit. I'm adding a bit more information here. I'm part of an art studio. The company that owns the studio wanted to form a gaming group to, quote, promote creativity and friendship. The game master is the brother of another one of the artists at my studio. Now, I don't really know the guy too well, because we don't share the same studio days, but from what I've heard, his brother volunteered to run a game, so long as he was paid a quote-unquote fair wage for his time. I was the first to be told about the gaming group because they thought I would be the most enthusiastic about being able to play, though I was not. Apparently, someone is going to report what I said to the higher-ups, and I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing for me, but at least my opinion mattered. Edit 2. I spoke with some of the people at the studio, and they admitted that they really had no idea what playing a tabletop RPG should be worth. Luckily, from the sounds of things, there will not be a $50 a week game anytime soon. Yeah, that is a pretty high asking price to join a game that you won't even know what the system is until you pay to join. And to go to the higher-ups at the art studio, for OP simply stating that $25 per session is a pretty steep price for someone to join a game that's usually just played for free among friends. And it looks like OP put out an update to this situation, so let's see what happened. Update on the $25 paid game. The higher-ups got back to me, and they were not pleased to say the least. They told me my opinions were quote-unquote objectively wrong and harmful, and that they were considered harassment against another artist's family. They also told me I was wrong to question the price of the game, and that I didn't have to play if I wasn't financially capable to pay for the game. I was also told, GM works a job and doesn't need to run this game to begin with, so you should be grateful you were invited first. The rant went on forever, with them repeating every point at least 3 times, and half the time they were just telling me that I was a disrespectful jerk. They ended the rant by saying $50 per person a week was enough to equate to an actual job's pay for the GM's time, and so it was fair pay, and that I was still wrong. And if that wasn't bad enough, I found out each player would have to pay for the month in advance, and if a player missed a session, they might get kicked for, quote, disrespecting the GM's time and hard work. I told them that I would be more than happy to GM for $5, or even for free, and they told me, well, we didn't ask you then, and we didn't ask you now. So yeah, I really don't think I'll be joining this game, which I still have no idea which system it is. And to anyone wondering, no, I wasn't disrespectful in the slightest. I try my best to get along, but many of the people running the place don't like feedback or opinions. We even have a rule against critiquing art at an art studio. Kind of backwards, but we have this rule. Edit. I really don't think this game is going to happen. We are all artists, ages 20 to 30, and some of us lack other income as well. What's probably going to happen is that everyone's going to see the entry fee and just nope out. And as far as I know, they haven't pitched the game to anyone else but me. I'm the biggest RPG nerd at the studio, and they probably have caught on to the fact that if I'm not interested in the game, it's likely that no one else will be. I'd have to agree with OP here. If he's one of the only people that is really into tabletop RPGs at the studio, and he's not willing to pay to play, that game is probably never going to happen. It would probably be better for OP to find a game on his own, or hell, maybe even pitch to the higher-ups to run a lower cost, or even a free game now and then, in order to bring more people into the studio. But something tells me that an art studio that has a rule against critiquing art probably isn't going to go for that. Though, all in all, I wish OP the best of luck. Now, let's get to today's final story. Player dislikes RPGs, still plays in my game. Submitted to the DnD Doge subreddit by Reddit user Celebrimbor. I really don't know what to do. Please give me some insight. So, I have a player. Let's call him Faye. He is one of my regular players for a Pathfinder 2nd edition game that I run at a game store. Everyone seems to really enjoy the game every session, with minor issues as normal. I'm not perfect. Except for him. Faye has expressed many times that he hates Pathfinder 2nd edition, and D20 systems in general. He also seems to dislike my world, characters, adventures, and general rulings. He argues rules with me constantly, interrupting the game. My favorite part is that he doesn't have any idea of character motive. He says he doesn't like using alignment, which fair. I'm actually looking forward to changing that. So he always plays chaotic neutral. Faye also has no character story, nor does he roleplay. When another player tried to ask him about his character, he only had one response: "I like dogs." Well, it sounds like he has at least one redeeming quality. He also cheats. A lot. With all this weighing on me, and the last time we played, Faye was saying things like, "This bar fight is dumb," which, duh, it's a bunch of drunk fools. "This is just pointless." Finally, when I had a magician, the performer of the night, cast Hypnotic Pattern, fascinating the whole bar, the character then jokingly said, "I hope you aren't all fighting over me," to which Faye responds, "What?" in an annoyed tone. I told him that he is fascinated, so he can't respond, which may or may not be true. It doesn't matter because he doesn't know. Faye then tells me, "Well, I'm gonna respond when she said something so stupid," raising his voice at the end to make a point. With that, I closed my laptop, told them that the game is over, and started packing up. He asked me, "What? Why?" And I snapped, and told him sternly, "I'm sick of you crapping on my game and characters constantly. We're done." As I was packing, the other players told me that they enjoyed the session, but Faye refused to speak to me. I'm not sure what to do with him exactly. I don't want him at the table anymore, and the last few games I've enjoyed less and less because of solely him. I've had other players complain about him too, so I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna kick him. But I want to hear other people's perspectives. I'd appreciate it. Thanks for reading. Well, my advice on this would be to find a time to talk to Faye alone, and ask him why he's acting the way he is. And if he doesn't like Pathfinder so much, why is he even playing? Perhaps he is just in need of friends, and your game may be one of the only outlets that he has to socialize. That would explain why, even though he doesn't like the system, he still plays. If that is the case, then maybe you can come to an understanding that he can still play, as long as he stops being a sourpuss about it. Maybe even occasionally run some one-shots in a different system here and there. Though, if the behavior keeps up after that, then I would just kick him, as it sounds like he's making running the game a headache for you, as well as bringing down the fun for the other players. Though, I'm curious, what advice would you guys give OP here? But that is all I have for you today. And I just have to say real quick, as of recording this video, the channel just reached 20k subs, which I still can't believe. So from me and all of the kiddies, I just want to say a big old thank you for supporting the channel. And as always, I really do mean it when I say I appreciate all of you. And may your games remain horror story free. Until next time.